The very first years of the jet era gave us a lot of iconic designs. The Messerschmitt Me 262, the Gloster Meteor, the AR-234 Blitz, the Lockheed Shooting Star, the de Havilland Vampire. Aside from their propulsion systems and some design choices, they were still relatively conventional aircraft, not that different from their late piston-engine brethren. It was only with the arrival of swept-wing planes when jet aircraft could push on to the next level, and the most well-known of those swept-wing fighters are the MiG-15 and the hero of this video, the legendary F-86 Sabre. American engineers started working on their own jet fighter during World War II, but their P-80 Shooting Star, as it became clear after the end of the war, was not on par with its closest rivals when it came to performance. As the USAAF searched for possible replacement, North American Aviation, the manufacturer that produced the iconic Mustang, submitted a new design, the XP-86. Originally, it was a fairly unremarkable transitional design with straight wings and equipped with the J-35, the United States Air Force's first axial-flow compressor engine. It met the requirements of reaching the speed of 900 kph, but that was it. There was nothing particularly special about it. All of that changed when the team working on the aircraft got their hands on some flight research data seized from German aerodynamicists that worked on several important fighter aircraft, including the Me-262. The data showed that a swept wing could offer a lot of advantages to their design, so the American team decided to change the sweep of their wing. As a result, in 1947, they made a new prototype with a 35-degree swept-back wing, and it proved to be significantly faster, even going beyond 1,000 kph. At that point, it was crystal clear that North American aviation struck gold with that one, and soon the new fighter, that we now know as the Sabre, was ready for production. It's worth noting that production Sabres were fitted with a new engine, the J-47. It was a Sabre with this very engine that set its first official world speed record of 1,079 km per hour in 1948. Flown by Major Richard L. Johnson, USAF. In only a few years, American pilots were already using this fighter jet in combat. United Nations pilots achieved superiority in the skies of the Korean Peninsula in the first months of the war. But then the communist powers started supplying North Korea with the MiG-15. Overwhelmingly fast and armed with powerful cannons, the new Soviet fighters easily tore through the ranks of outdated shooting stars and had no difficulty downing Superfortress bombers. That's until they met the Sabres, of course. Yes, the F-86 didn't have as much firepower and couldn't climb as fast, but they were considerably more agile in dogfights and had superior electronics. These two fighters were meeting each other in combat so often that UN pilots even called an area where the Yalu River meets the Yellow Sea MiG Alley. All of that combat experience gave American engineers plenty of ideas how they could improve the Sabre. The F-86F variant received a new version of the J-47 engine and a few structural upgrades, while the experimental F-86F-2 variant was armed with 20mm autocannons. Furthermore, with time, Sabres became really popular with aerobatic and demonstration teams. That's why in War Thunder we have a special F-86F-35 variation in the livery of the USAF Sky Blazers aerobatic team. It wasn't just American pilots that were fond of the Sabre, though. The Japanese used a few Sabre variants, including the F-86F-30 fighter bomber and the F-86F-40 with an improved wing that was produced under license by Mitsubishi. Moreover, Sabres of this type made it to Taiwan. Italy also had a history of producing early modifications of the Sabres domestically, in Fiat factories no less, and Italians used the CL-13, the variant of the Sabre built by Canadair. The very same CL-13 fighter jet was also employed by West Germany. If we had to pick just one modification of the F-86 to discuss, we'd probably choose the F-86D, also known as the Sabre Dog. The team behind the project was asked to develop the Sabre into an all-weather interceptor, leading to lots of changes to the original design. The aircraft received a new nose, new electronics, a new afterburning engine, and more powerful armaments. All in all, the Sabre Dog had only 25% commonality with other Sabre variants. In fact, it was different enough to get its own distinct name, but due to a number of reasons, remained a proud member of the Sabre family. The export version of this aircraft, the F-86K, had its rocket tray replaced with 4 20mm cannons. This variation was used by Germany, Italy, and France. Finally, in 1949, North American aviation started to work on a completely new aircraft design that was set to replace the good old Sabre in service. One of the most important features of the new fighter was that it had to be supersonic. To achieve that, the aircraft, among other things, was going to receive a 45-degree swept wing and a new J-57 engine. Apparently it worked really well. Even during trials, different variations of the fighter established 2 world speed records, in 1953 and in 1955. The new jet entered service in 1954 with the name that you all know, F-100 Super Sabre. Its service history wasn't as impressive as one of its predecessors. After all, in Vietnam, where the F-100 finally got a chance to prove its worth, it was already competing with significantly more advanced aircraft. Not to say that it wasn't appreciated, though. In the late 1950s, its reconnaissance variant, the F-100A, was brought into service in Taiwan, and the F-100D variation was used by both France and the US. Even though most of the Sabre's glory years were in the 1950s, the aircraft was still in use many long years after that. In fact, the last F-86s were only decommissioned in 1994, when Bolivia finally decided to remove them from operational status. Would you want to fly a Sabre yourself? Do you have a favorite variation? Do tell us in the comments below. We're hungry for your info.